Alright, so to continue our build, we're going to be mounting our circuitry, our small pieces, the relay and the shield to our storage container. This way it keeps it nice and organized, also keeps it from potentially getting wet. And so I discussed which components we're going to need. I am going to show how to change this drill bit out just in case you've forgotten or you don't know. We're simply going to, at this ring here, we're going to take it and basically twist one way and one the opposite way. And this first part will start spinning, and then we have our bit to come out. Remember, this was the step bit that we used for the bulkhead. So I'm going to change out to the smaller bit, which should have been included in your pack. It's slightly larger than the M3 size. And what I'm going to need to do, probably cannot see inside, but if you can, inside the nose of the drill here, there's three small things that are coming together, and they basically clamp onto our bit. And you can see, if I keep going righty-tighty, they're getting tighter now, and they're actually protruding from the nose of the drill. So I'm going to pull those back some, wiggle my bit in there, eventually, and go ahead and tighten that back up. And to tighten, we just go in the reverse. I'm holding that ring closest to the drill and then turning the other part to the right. So I have my drill. I'm going to shift some things around so we don't have things in our way. So we have our relay here, which we are not going to need yet, and our shield. So just a quick intro. Our relay is basically going to act like an on-off switch for our electronics that we're going to be using. This allows us to communicate with higher voltage things. So we're going to be using alternating current, AC, when we plug things into our outlets, but we are using DC to actually operate things, which is much safer. And then our shield is going to connect to our microbit. The shield will allow us to basically use these jumpers here instead of trying to clamp on or weld or solder to the actual microbit. So this allows us some expanded functionality. And what I'm going to do is shift off my small screws to another piece of paper. I usually lose these things very often, so we're just going to shift them here, and hopefully I don't actually lose them. And so I'm going to take my my mounting template and tape it to the inside of this. So we have our inside here. We have this here. I'm going to tape it in place so that way it doesn't move. Just right on the inside here. And actually, I'm going to take the piece of paper out to attach the tape first. So it'll be a little easier to put in. If you do not get this perfect, it is okay. No one's going to judge you on your mounting ability for your microbit electronics. They're just going to be impressed that you have a hydroponic growing solution. So I have tape on all the sides now. I'm going to go ahead and just tape this here. Pressing down all of the sides. We're just going to use this as a helpful way to drill, but we are going to end up taking it out after. So we have our pieces in place. If you think something may move, you may want to go ahead and go from here and take a marker and put dots where these dots are. So we're going to actually drill through the holes. There are these little dots on the template. So there's 4 on each component that we're going to be drilling through. I'm going to make these dots real quick. And again, just making them on the outside just so they're a little clearer to see. So when I drill in, it'll be a lot easier for me to do. And so now I have made my dots on my actual plastic, and now I'm going to take my drill and drill into these holes. So I'm going to set this here. Obviously I'm going to do a couple this way just so I can remind you how to drill holes, but then I'm going to actually turn it this way. Well, no, I'll keep it this way. And we'll drill this way. It'll be a little easier. We don't want to press down too hard because we don't want to crack this plastic. It shouldn't crack, but we do want to be careful about that. I do want to make sure that I'm going, have my right button, right side of the trigger click down. That's going to make it rotate, what is this, clockwise instead of counterclockwise. We want clockwise to drill. And so, again, just going to put a Now we're going to be mounting our relay as well as our shield inside of our container. And so how we'll do this is, the angle is going to be a little weird, but again, we're going to be working on the inside of this box. This is where the electronics will be mounted, and we can keep them flat until we put them in with the other components and make the whole system. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these small screws, the 12 millimeter M3, and push them through. You could actually do this the other way. I just find it easier to turn the screw from the outside. So again, these small screws, I'm going to first place those through. We are going to need our small screwdriver kit. Fortunately, these screws and stuff are nylon, they're not metal, so the magnetic, neat, cool part of this is not going to work. But we're going to start here, pushing each screw through the holes from the outside, as I've done here. See that small screw has been placed through there. Next I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these spacers. These spacers are not the nut. So this one here is the spacer. You can tell it's much wider. It creates space, basically. The nut we're going to use to secure the electronic to the board. But I'm going to put all 8 screws through, and then I'm going to put the spacer on the screw without attaching the component. Then I'm going to put the component on the spacer, and then I'm going to use the nut to make it so it stays in place. So that's what we're doing here. Again, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, so I'm going to rotate these spacers as I'm going in a clockwise direction, and just getting them down to the edge. You can hand tighten that, and you can see here that my spacer is mounted or screwed onto the screw that I've put in place. I'm going to do that for the other ones now. May actually be easier, let gravity help us out a little bit, to put our screws in first this way through these holes, and then use the spacers on the other side. So I have all 8 screws in. Now I'm going to be doing these spacers. I like to, again, hold with one hand the screw and then twist, and then you can just go and make it nice and easy on yourself here. And again, another spacer, this back component, lift that up a little bit. Again, hand tightening all of these. The screw should be protruding from the spacer once you screw it all the way in. If it doesn't, then either you accidentally got the screw that was too short, or you have a spacer that is too long. And if you do, you probably need to switch that. If it's much, much longer, that means you probably just got a screw that was way too long, which is okay. this just, again, allows us to mount these components, and we don't have to worry about them being damaged or free floating or anything like that. You may actually not need to even use your screwdriver here, but it's better to have it ready than not. So I've finished those spacers in there. You see they're here, they're in there. Now I can mount my electronics, which I'm just going to show quickly how we would do that. So I'm going to place this back down and readjust the camera very quickly. Remember, on our template, this side was our relay, the side that had the screws more spaced out. The other side was our shield. And so if I put my relay on here, I may have to wiggle the screws a tiny bit, but eventually everything should fit nicely. And it appears I have one spacer that I did not tighten all the way, so I'm going to go back, tighten that one up. This is the back corner. Probably some of those pieces of plastic that I said to get rid of, and I skipped over it a little bit myself. So, tightened. Try that again. And again, it may take just a little bit of wiggling, but we will eventually have our relay attached in there. What we do want to make sure of is the 6 channels. This part of the relay is facing away from the shield. We want this small connection here to face the shield because that's where we're going to create the jumpers between the 2 pieces. So once I have this one here, I'm going to go ahead and use the nuts that I have. There we go. It's hard to get this camera angle, huh? All right, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. In this step, we're going to be making 2 holes at the top, and instead of changing out the bits first, I figured an easier way to show you is a way that I've done in the past by using a smaller bit, a smaller drill bit, making a smaller hole, and then using the step bit to actually do the rest of the work. And so I'm just going to make 2 black dots, just where I want to start this. It's going to be fairly close to the top of our container. So if you see there's a plastic lip here, we're going to go probably about a ½ inch down from that very top. So when I actually use the drill bit, I'll go through both the wall of the container and then also the plastic lip here. We'll do the same thing on the other side. And now we're going to take our drill, going from the inside to the outside, and with the bit we had used before, not the step bit. We're going to drill that first hole, be pretty parallel to the ground, so that way we can get through the outside overhang as well. So I have both my holes now. I'm going to go ahead and change out drill bits again to the step bit. The step bit will allow me to basically widen these holes out And what I'm doing is making just a U on this top part. If I had a knife or a razor, or not a razor blade, a box cutter, I could also cut out a V shape or a U shape here. I just figured with the tools supplied, this is probably the easiest thing to do. So I'm going to go ahead and use the step bit and the hole that I created and just widen it out. It appears 1/2 inch is still a little too far. So end up with 2 holes very close to the top. I'm just going to use the scissors and cut out the rest. Again, we just need it to have a space here. And just cutting that on both sides. It is good though, anytime we can drill a circle into plastic, that helps prevent cracking. So that's, like I said, a really good thing. We don't want our plastic to crack, and as time goes on, it's more likely to crack. So emptying out that, I'm going to clean this workstation up a little bit, and then I'll show you how we're going to assemble the parts that we have so far. In this step, we're going to be assembling our grow light that we have here. Really, with the type of plants that we'll use, any fairly strong LED grow light will work. I got this one because it was extendable. It seemed to fit the shape, and the cost was quite low compared to the other ones. I put everything here just to kind of show the general layout of how this will work, or what things will work and which way. The design was designed in a way that all of the components can go in a larger storage container and pretty much function just within that storage container. So for now, I'm going to remove both of these pieces, the larger containers here, and just show the assembly of the grow light. And then we'll come back and show where we need to drill some holes, or drill a hole to work on some cable management. So we'll move this, and actually I'm just going to shift this over, moving these cords out of the way so we can focus in on our grow light. So we have our heavier metallic base here. We have this extendable wand. We also have this component, which could go on the end of the wand in some way to allow us to put this into something like this, but we're just going to assemble it with the base. That seems to be the easiest. So I'm going to take the grow light and take the part that screws on, the smaller part that screws on, and screw that into the base here of the light. And then I'm going to take this part here and screw it on the base, and we have our grow light done. They do have this nice functionality along with the timer, which is good. We can use this timer, or we're going to actually program our timer. So using the microbit. I took the cable tie off. I'm going to plug the USB cord into the power adapter, which we will use at another point after we modify our power outlets, and go from there. Taking this plastic back up, and again, how this system will work together is we will have the tubing side facing our box here, just because it creates the shortest amount between the two, and I'm going to drill holes into our plastic box so these wires won't be interrupting or interfering with the top as we put the top on. So I'm going to go ahead and do 2. The reason I'm going to do 2 is because that way we don't have cables kind of going back and forth. We can just put them in from either side of our growing container. We'll also have the light, which I think for this build, the best way to do it is actually to turn the base around, and we can put that base underneath our plastic container here, extend this up, and then actually turn our light, in which we can be right over our place here, and ship that over so we can have it set up just like this. Now we have our holding container that's going to hold our electronics. 2 holes in the top here. We have our relay and our shield, as well as our microbit mounted inside towards the growing tank and the water tank, and I also have my light in between them. The reason we cut these holes again in the top is so we can run our power over here, and we don't have wires kind of going everywhere. So I'm going to start with this wire from the lamp, and just going to put it in that hole here, run the wire in. We don't need to be too particular yet. We haven't done the power strip, modifying that. Next, since this pump, and remember this is the return pump, is on this side, I'm going to do this cable on the same side that I did my light. And then finally, the last pump, our pump into the growing container pump, has this wire. I think I used a different pump at some point, and that's why the wires aren't exactly the same. Both of these pumps are pretty powerful, and really no matter what pumps you have, they're going to be good enough, so it doesn't matter that the wires are different. But I'm going to go ahead and put that wire inside here, and if I grab my top, I can see that it should close on there nicely, and I can put those flaps on, and there we go. General skeleton of our HydroBitBox is finished. Our next step will be modifying the power outlet, the power strip, to be able to work with the microbit programming. After that, we will make sure everything's nice and tidy, test the electronics, and then start the programming part.